At least once a day, I'll read a message from somebody watching one of my streams or in my YouTube comments saying, "Oh look, Harry Potter is playing chess." People tell me I look like Daniel Radcliffe or Harry Potter all the time. I don't know what you guys think, let me know. I get other people as well. I get Elijah Wood, Rami Malek from Mr. Robot, and others. Well, I came across an opening that is called the Potter variation. I figured what better way to dedicate a thumbnail in a video than to talk about this opening. So the opening, and the variation in particular, is in the Scotch Opening. The Scotch Opening is a really good opening for beginners, intermediate, advanced players, and it's very practical because it happens after E4, E5. And I'm sure you see this all the time if you play the King's Pawn, and if you don't, well, if you do play E4, you will see it all the time. So I'm going to jump into the variations. I put all the moves in the description of the video. So to learn these things, you copy paste that into an engine, you run it through a machine, and if you ever have any questions that I don't cover here, you try to continue that research a little bit on your own, because there's no way I can cover every single possible move. Okay, let's go. So E4, black has to play E5, knight F3, and here black has to play the most classical move, knight C6. If black plays knight F6, which is maybe potentially looking for a Stafford Gambit or something, there's nothing to fear in the Stafford Gambit. You can just take, and then play like D3 and bishop E2. Daniel Naroditsky made a video about this. But at the same time, if after knight F6 you just played 3D4 anyway, that's completely okay as well. But we're focusing on knight C6. And here you're going to play D4. This is the Scotch Opening. It's a great opening. And it doesn't play the bishop out, and it doesn't play the knight, so you're just trying to fight for the center right away. More often than not, black is going to take here. If black doesn't take, for example, you might get d6. Against d6, the best thing for you to do, you can take this, and then trade the queen, so something like takes, and then they can't castle anymore, and now you would just develop your pieces. You're always a little bit better here. Something like knight c3, get the bishop, maybe castle queenside, so that your rook hits this king, bishop comes out, very active, very, very active position. But at the same time, you're also very happy to just push, attacking this knight, and then just take as much space as you can. Take it with the pawn first, then put your pieces out like this. But this one's a little harder to play, because here the position's a bit more closed. Most often you will have this capture, and then you will take back, and you're very happy with this trade because now there's no knight to hit your queen, and you'll play knight c3, bishop e3, castle queenside, and a lot of the positions we're going to be castling queenside in this suggestion, in this variation that I'm going to show you after knight takes d4. So in the Scotch, there are two main lines, and they are bishop to c5 and knight to f6. Most beginners probably will actually play knight f6 or take. They might play bishop c5, and I could be completely wrong on this, and I'll tell you why. It's just that, like, beginners are more used to getting the knights out, so they might just play knight f6 here. Then again, they also could just attack your knight. So I will start with bishop c5. The classical main line of the Scotch is bishop to e3, but this is the Potter variation after the move knight to b3. Okay? So you bring back the knight, counter-attacking the bishop. It's not the most popular move, and black has a choice of what to do. Let's say black gives you a check. Black gives you a check, you just attack the bishop. That's not complicated. Now the bishop has to run away. And if the bishop goes like to e7, for example, the best move here for white is actually f4. Not just developing a bishop to e3. This is designed to prevent knight f6. Because now you would just attack the knight. So black has to move the knight, probably back. If you go to e4, I'll find a way to attack the knight somehow. And this is very unpleasant for black. More likely, you will face bishop to b6. And now you develop the second knight. And what you want to do is pin this knight when it gets to f6, like queen e2, and castle queenside. And in a perfect world, that looks something like this. So something like, let's just say h6, you just come back, castles, queen e2, And you put the queen here so that the rook has this line. The queen defends the central pawn. You can push e5 in the future. And by castling to the other side of the board, now you've created some attacking possibilities. So for example, you might consider knight to d5, putting more pressure on this knight as it's pinned. If black plays bishop to e6, you can play something like f3, g4, g5. You do this because you're trying to create an attack on the king, and you need to open the g file. All these different attacking possibilities. You can also play f4. Not so fast because bishop g4, but the idea still applies. Trying to attack on this side of the board, knight planted in the center. Because the kings are on opposite sides, there's a lot more attacking possibilities than, you know, in a normal Scotch when you would castle short. Potter variation is very venomous, which I say a lot, as people have told me. But I like that word, you know, because it has a little bit of bite. It looks like you're just casually developing your pieces. The best thing for black to do in a lot of these positions is actually to play g5 at a certain point. But for newer players, this is a huge weakening of the position. And even though black might get a decent position here, like in terms of their development, playing moves like h4, breaking apart this structure, and then castling queenside will give you very nice attacking possibilities. If they play knight f6, hitting this pawn, this is a very good line for black, but I'm going to show you a cool weapon. And if you are a beginner, you will win a lot of positions from this point forward. Because the moves that black has to know from a theoretical perspective are very unnatural. Let me show you. So you're going to take on c6. bc6 is the move because if dc6, you take the queen, and then you just do what you do, you know? Showed you this already. So they will take with the b pawn, and now you attack the knight. Now, 9 times out of 10, if you've never studied this position with black, you're going to play the move knight to d5 or knight to e4. Knight to e4 can just be met with something like queen f3, just getting after this knight. Knight to d5 should be met with pawn hitting the knight. Now the knight cannot come here, and if it comes this way, you just keep developing. My personal favorite here is to go bishop to d3, anticipating that black will castle this king. So something like this castles, and if black castles here, you can already even start to create some sort of attack. It can get very, very dangerous. Queen h5, there's some tactics here. Knight c3, knight comes, the bishop is going to come this way. The thing is, black's knight is just stuck on the other side of the board. So knight d5, c4 is very bad. But what black has to play here is the move queen to e7. This is like played by so many grandmasters. Pinning the pawn to the knight, up to the king. You see why this is so unnatural. Because beginner's going to think my knight's hanging. I just got to move my knight. But an advanced player will know that you have to play the move queen to e7 here. And that's why after queen e7, you play queen e2. You defend the pawn. Still threatening this, and now knight to d5 again. Now, in this position, you don't play c4. I'm going to recommend you a very, very cool weapon. The reason why I'm not recommending c4 is that it's extremely theoretical. There's a line here for black, bishop to a6, which pins the pawn to the queen. Now we see the point of making me put my queen here, because you're able to pin me. If black knows this, you have to know a lot of theory. White is fine here. If white, knows b3, for example, and there's all sorts of different setups here. Feel free to study this position on your own using an openings database or an engine, but that would simply take hours of analysis. So what I'm recommending is a very cool idea, h4. Think, what the heck is this? Why would I play h4? Couple of ideas. Number one, the control of the g5 square and the bishop coming to g5 in the future. Another idea, as crazy as it sounds, rook h3. And the rook can swing over and start to create pressure like this. Also, if black ever plays g6, bishop g7, you can play h5 and you're already trying to come in with the pawn. Here, for a beginner, it's very difficult to find a move with black. One of black's best moves here is a5. I can basically guarantee you that if you get this position, no one will ever play the move a5. Unless you're like 2200, that move tries to play bishop a6, now that the rook is protecting. And there's some theory here, something like, I don't even remember the exact theoretical move. I believe it's c4. And if black plays something like bishop a6, We've already seen this position, something like b3 to defend the pawn, for example. This knight can develop to d2 or c3 if this knight moves. Very, very theoretical position. More likely is that black will play d6 or f6. Just trying to trade your pawn here in the center. And the easiest thing for you to do here is to play c4. Knight will go to b6, because here's the thing. If bishop a6 now, there's a huge difference. Huge difference. You can take the pawn. Now the queen is hit, and there's some issues. If pawn takes pawn, for example, you have queen takes. The knight has to come back because it's under attack, and now you just develop normally. Knight c3, bishop f4 g5, long castle, open file. These pawns are going to be targets. You get the queens off the board, but your position is still very comfortable. So something like knight b6, and a very simple trade, and we have kind of a similar position. This pawn is not really a weakness, and you can use it for the future. Like I said, h5, h6. It's protected if you ever put the bishop there, and if you want to, just in this particular case, you won't be able to, but if the bishop is not covering that square, bring the rook up and over. h4 is a cool move. Check it out in the database. It's not the most popular, but it is played by a lot of super GMs. This isn't me just making some stuff up for clickbait purposes. And that's really the two main lines, bishop c5 and knight f6. All right, now you know what to do in the Scotch. You have the Potter variation with bishop to c5. We already looked at knight takes d4. And there's really limited other options. My favorite is queen f6. Don't take the knight if they attack you. Against this, I would recommend going for knight b5. Point is to go to c7. Simple and straightforward. If black plays something like back to d8, well, you can just keep developing. Knight c3, bishop f4, just get... I mean, this is silly. What is this? Why are we going back and forth? So, bishop f4, knight c3, develop your pieces. But there is one very tricky line. Tricky line in these positions, and it's the move queen to h4. So it's after knight takes d4, queen... Oh, sorry. I clicked the forward arrow. Queen to h4. I have played this myself with black, and this looks very scary. The point of this is that, of course, if g3, you're just going to take this pawn. And you're not quite winning the rook if white plays queen e2, but it's still very unpleasant. And if knight takes c6, I still take because it's check, and then I win the knight back. So the best move here for white is the move knight c3. Now, a lot of people play this, but then with black, you play bishop to b4. And this does look very dangerous. If white plays something like bishop d2, suddenly they've lost their knight. And now they're just down a knight. So they can't do that. If they play queen d3, looks like it's defending everything. Black plays knight f6, hitting this again, and it's just becoming more and more difficult to guard this thing, because you're going to take and then win it. So the best move here for white, if you ever face this, best move here for white, after bishop to b4, is the move bishop to e2. And it looks like you don't know what you're doing. It looks like you've just given away the e4 pawn. Now, if they take on e4, you can't take because you're pinned. You're going to play the move knight d to b5 now, giving this away, but threatening this. If they take the knight, you take with a pawn. And the second that they take here, you have bishop to f3. You can also take, check, and then when they move, play bishop f3. And the issue here is that everything is guarded. And if they move back, you're going to win their rook. Knight takes a8. So you've avoided all of the danger in your position, and you've won a rook. This is very, this is like taking someone who thinks they're trapping you and leading them down into the trap and trapping them right back. You will get this. And of course, like I said, if bishop c3, there's this. Now, this is one of my favorites. Let's say they go back. They're not attacking your knight. They're just defending. Well, here you have this move f4. Brutal move. Defended, and if queen c3, you have this. And they cannot stop themselves from losing material. You can give queen h4 a try. You will catch people if they haven't watched this video and if they haven't prepared this. If you play this with black, if you play e4, e5 with the black position, with the black pieces, and you get a Scotch, you can try this queen h4 move. You will catch people, but it's not it's not a great move if they play knight c3 in here. Now, for example, if knight c3, bishop c5, still kind of tricky. Don't take because you get checkmated. Just go here. This is the one you cannot play the Potter variation. You just have to be solid here with the bishop on e3, here, and castle. A queen out this early can only be a target. So something like knight f5, hitting the queen. Once you consolidate, g3, kicking the queen away. Just don't fall for the queen's nonsense, and you'll be okay. That's basically it. I have nothing else for you in this video. Just a full-on study of e4, e5, and the Scotch. And the cool thing about it is that I got to make the Potter variation with knight b3. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. You guys agree? I look like Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter? That's the one I get all the time. Now, who do people tell you look like is what I want to know. I'd be very curious. Unfortunately, in YouTube comments, you can't share pictures, but that's probably for the best, because otherwise, who knows what people would put in the comments, man. They're already crazy as is. Yeah, if you made it this far in the video and you're not yet subscribed, scroll down, take a look, hit the subscribe button. We're gaining like 2,000 or 3,000 a day. It is insane. Absolutely insane. I told you in a recent Twitter post, from October 2019 to October 2020, that took a year to get 100,000. In less than a month, now in November 2020, we gained another 50. It is unbelievable what's going on in chess right now. I couldn't be more excited to be part of it. Just making all this content for all of you. As always, 2 videos are going to appear over there. And if you enjoy, browse around the playlists and check out some more of the short videos and different series that I have. Take care. See you in the next one.